Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 11 4 key game picks. Before I get into my picks for Week 11, obviously a lot went on in Week 10. Too much stuff that went on. I wish I had enough time to talk about this, but there's only so much that I can get to. And let me see, where do I start? I definitely got to start with the New England Patriots losing to the Titans. That actually was a big upset. I wouldn't say that actually it was sort of it was really an upset in my name, but was it a big upset? I think I was kind of exaggerating there, but I think it was a big deal. The only thing that it makes it a big deal, look, the Patriots are still going to win the AFC East regardless, but it does put them in a position now where they will probably end up as probably the 2 seed, maybe even the 3 seed, depending on what happens. Because the only reason why I'm saying possibly a 3 seed is that Pittsburgh, with that tie, it helps them to evolve if somehow Pittsburgh down the road moves them up to the 2nd seed into getting a bye week, depending on how the rest of the season play out. So really, the New England Patriots lost a lot on that game against the Titans. They probably more than likely lost home field advantage, and they could be in danger now of possibly losing a first-round bye down the stretch. But I think that obviously is that I think to me what was made this thing fascinating is that Dion Lewis. I'm not sure if you read in the papers. Is that if you read what happened is that he called the Patriots cheap after they let him go to free agency. That to me cracked me up. But at the same time too, let's just say down the road. Let's say if Tennessee were to get a playoff spot, and who would be their first round opponent? Who's to say that it could be the Patriots? It's really tough to say right now. If I'm Tennessee right now, it's a big win for them, no question about it. And they're only 1 game back of the division. With Houston, Houston's still currently in first place right now, but they're only 1 game back. But really right now, if it comes down to it, the Tennessee Titans are rolling high right now. But I really think right now, who's to say what will happen in the postseason if Dion Lewis can't back up his mouth? But that's a whole nother story that I wish I could get into more. But that's probably one of my favorite things from Week 10. Big loss for the Rams. Coop is torn his ACL. He's done for the season. That to me now hurts the Rams offense. They have the running game, but now that Goff doesn't have one of his best weapons at wide receiver, now puts a ton of pressure on other players in order for the Rams to really make themselves strong as a team. And it's really tough to say down the stretch how this is going to play out. And especially the fact it's going to be probably one of the best. It could be one of the biggest Monday night games in terms of records with them in Kansas City. That is going to be one of my key game picks, and I will get into that later on. And speaking of the Chiefs and all, despite a defensive slowdown in that game, because really their defense really had a hard time against the Cardinals, they still ended up winning. And that really puts the Chiefs into a great position now to possibly, if everything goes down the stretch and it goes well for them, to get the number 1 seed for sure. Dallas Cowboys actually got back on track, and now a lot of pressure now is on the defending champions, whether or not that look, they already lost a player to an ACL injury, so now the Eagles right now, they're in big time trouble. The Cowboys saved their season when they should have. This really shouldn't have been the case if Ezekiel Elliott would have been utilized a lot more for the Cowboys. And now it may be too little too late for them, even though they got a big win and they may have salvaged their season for now. But it's tough to say what's going to happen down the stretch. And well, look, the Redskins are still well ahead by 2 games on both these teams. So it's tough to say how this is going to play out for them. Anyways, guys, I could get into more stuff about week number 10, but let's get into my picks. All right. Let's begin with key game number 1 in Week 11. It is the Thursday night matchup. The Green Bay Packers versus the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are actually a 2.5-point favorite in this one. That should be much lower. Now, keep in mind, I'm posting this video up a little bit more earlier as I'm going to the same thing next week because next week is Thanksgiving, and I'm going to be too exhausted to try to get everything done. I'm trying to get everything done as quickly as possible. Anyways, that's a whole different subject. All right, now, The Green Bay finally got back on track last week in a big win over the Dolphins right now, but there is still a lot of things going on behind off the field issues, whether or not if McCarthy and Rodgers are now things are starting to get heated between both of them. But nevertheless, Rodgers 19 of 28, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in a big win last week against the Dolphins. The Seahawks with Wilson 17 of 26, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a good game last week against the Rams, but obviously he could not come back in the end to beat them. But they played the Rams very well. This is really a toss-up here. This game should... look, I said last week between Panthers and Steelers, I thought that game was going to be good, and ended up becoming a joke. I'm just hoping that this Thursday night game should be a good one. I don't think this will be a blowout for sure. This is a game I think is going to go back and forth here. Both teams are struggling defensively. Offensive-wise, both teams got offense, but I think the way both their teams' defense is right now, I really think that we're expecting a shootout in this game. I think it's going to be a shootout. And I think whoever has the ball last in this game is probably going to end up winning. Tough to say who wins this game. I am not 100% sure on this pick, but I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks here. They're too good at home. Packers have the offense, but lately their defense has struggled a lot. Even though they were lucky they got a banged-up Dolphins team last week. Don't be surprised in this game if Green Bay's defense really struggles against Russell Wilson and the way their offense has come alive recently. But right now, it's like I said, this is not a sure pick here. I usually go with Seattle at home, and I like the Seahawks in this game. It'll be a very close game. I expect this game to be close, but I'll go with the Seahawks here. Remember, this is not a 100% sure pick on this one. At 2.5 here, that number will probably be much lower in the next few days. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this one. I think it'll be a close game here, and I'm going to stick with that. Seahawks over the Packers. Key game number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals and versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, why is this considered a key game to me? Currently, right now, the Bengals hold the last playoff spot going into Week 11. But this could be a big tiebreaker for the Ravens if they beat them. And we'll say what happens down the stretch. It is really tough to say between these two teams. Like I said, there's a lot of... Right now, a lot of teams in the AFC are jockeying for position right now. The Chargers are in good position right now as the 5 seed right now. That's what they're currently at right now. But really, the 6 seed right now, it's going to be a fight to the finish to who wins. Who's going to get into the postseason here, and a lot of teams are juggling here. This is considered a key game for the Cincinnati Bengals to keep their playoff hopes alive, and for Baltimore to try to knock them out. The Bengals have a lot of things going on right now. They fired their defensive coordinator. Really, their defense is terrible. Dalton went 12 of 20, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, but intercepted 2 times in the game. Now, the Ravens are coming off a bye week. Flacco went 23 of 37, 206 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions in the loss against the Steelers. And keep in mind, though, right now Joe Flacco is considered a game-time decision now because there was an injury that happened back in week number 9, but regarding the hip. But I'm reading some different sources here. It's a possibility he will play in this game, but if he doesn't, I mean, Lamar Jackson would step in here. So. I mean, he did play in Week 9. He only had like 12 yards with 1 attempt. And it's really tough to say right now. Look, if Flacco does play in this game, the Ravens are a 4.5-point favorite, and that number should be much lower because both these teams are pretty much evenly matched. Ravens have a little bit of a better defense. Bengals' defense is a mess here. If everything goes according to how I see it going into this game on Sunday, I'm like the Ravens in this game. I think, to me, Cincinnati's problems are just going to continue to get worse. No word yet if A.J. Green's going to be available for this game for the Bengals. Tough to say what's going to come about towards game time here. But I'm going with the Ravens here. Ravens are in a must-win situation to try to keep their playoff hopes alive. And that's what I'm going to stick with. I think, to me, the Bengals' problems defensively are going to continue, and it's not going to get any better for them. And I think, to me, the Ravens will get the revenge from week 2, and that's what I'm going to go with it. The Ravens, the Ravens over the Bengals. Key game number 3, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Chicago Bears. A battle for first place in the NFC North. Minnesota is coming off a bye. The Bears are a 3-point favorite in this one. That number should be also lower. But this is the early line right now, so don't be surprised if the numbers goes to 2.5, maybe 2 points here. Cousins back in week 9. Remember, the Vikings are coming off a bye week. 18 of 22, 164 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception, and a big win over the Lions back in week number 9. Michael Trubisky went 23 of 30, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception, and ironically over a win over the Lions. Boy, the Lions were basically the punching bag for both these two teams. But talking about this game here, Bears defense, they played much better. Mack was back in that game after he came off an injury. And I don't know what the Vikings, how they're going to play out coming off the bye here. This game could not be even more evenly matched as it is. The question, I think, in this game here, who's not going to turn the ball over and who's going to have the ball last? I think, to me, this game's going to go back and forth here. I see that both defenses are pretty much evenly matched here. I think, to me, this game's going to go back and forth here. Tough to say who comes out of this game. This is not a sure pick here. The way the Bears played last week over the Lions, it was a big win for them. Same thing with the Vikings. But now these two teams meet first place on the line here in the NFC North. Who am I picking here? This is, like I said, this is not a sure pick here. This game's going to go back and forth. This game can go either way. But I'm going actually with the home team here. I'm going to go with the Bears here. I think, to me, the Bears defense, if Max it continues to get better and plays healthier and all that, the Bears defense really, I think, is going to be a factor, and if they can get to Cousins. Now, the Vikings offense, they're still average, but let's just look. Cousins really has to play very well in this game in order for the Vikings to take over first place. But I just think, to me, Bears defense is just a tad better than the Vikings, and that's why I'm picking the Bears in this game. Don't get me wrong here. This game's going to go back and forth. This game can go either way. This is not a sure pick here, but I'll stick with the Bears here. They're right now I covered at 3. Probably will go down to 2.5 to maybe 2. Bears over the Vikings. And finally, key game number 4, as I mentioned during the commentary earlier in the video, it is the battle of the 9-1 teams. It is a big one on Monday night. Chiefs versus the Rams. Make a mental note here. This game is in Mexico City as part of the NFL's agreement for international series here. And Mexico is going to get a good game on Monday night. I'm going to tell you that. They're going to get their money's worth. I guarantee you. Now, Mahomes, even though their defense struggled here, but offensively, Mahomes did very well. 21 of 28, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And as for Goff and the Rams, Goff went 20 of 39, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Rams are actually favored in this one at 2.5. And I think that I don't know if I want to consider the Rams as a favorite here. I do agree that their defense is still better than the Chiefs. A couple of factors will come down in this game here. I don't think it's so much look. In terms of passing, both these teams are equally matched. It's the running game, I think, that's going to really be the key here. They're evenly matched. Defense, I give a slight advantage to the Rams. This game could not be any tough to pick here. What do I see coming out of this game? Hopefully this is a good offensive game. Hopefully it's a shootout. Hopefully this will be probably one of the best Monday night games ever. Tough to say who's going to come out the victor of this one here. A lot of people are saying this is a Super Bowl preview. I don't know if I buy that. Really tough to say here, but I think, to me, whoever has the ball last is probably going to end up winning this game. Who do I like in this one? I'm actually going with the Kansas City Chiefs. Their offense, their running game, they can easily put a passing touchdown and a good running touchdown. The way the Rams defense is struggling. And the Rams defense is struggling, even though they might have a slight advantage in that department here between these two teams, but they struggled the last 2 games. I should say the last 3 games. They struggled with the Seahawks. the Saints and the Packers. Those games were close. And I really think that is going to play a role in this game. I think the Rams are going to lose again here. I think they're going to get their second loss, and I think the Chiefs will definitely be 10-1. And that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. I think, to me, their offense is going to be the big factor here. They are more healthier than the Rams are, and that's why I'm going to pick the Chiefs in this one. Chiefs over the Rams. All right, everybody, that wraps up my picks for week number 11. For all of my week 11 picks, check the description below. And I'll see you guys next week for week number 12 as we head down the stretch here. And, of course, that week 12 is my Thanksgiving edition of my week 12 picks. So until then, everybody, take care, and I'll see you guys next week when I talk about my picks. Take and enjoy your football weekend.